The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Lorne Lavine. Many of you know me as the Digital Dentist, and I wanted to welcome everyone to this evening's webinar. As of this morning, we had around 250 people or so that were registered for the webinar, and a good number of you are already here. I'm only going to speak for a couple of minutes at first here. I want to make sure that our guest speakers, Rohit and Ulf, can speak as long as they'd like as well. We also want to make sure that we leave time for questions. Now, all of you on your screen should see a little GoToWebinar control panel where you can go ahead and type in your questions. I'm the only one that can monitor those questions, but as we're going through the presentation, unlike some other webinars we've done in the past where you have to wait until the end, I'm going to keep an eye on the question so that if you do have a question as we're going along, I'll try to get to that question as it's appropriate to get to it. In the next couple of days or so, you should be getting a couple of things from us. First off is that by tomorrow, you will get a link sent to you to download the entire recorded webinar. We do record all these webinars, so if you have to take a phone call or have to take care of your kids or whatever, don't worry about it. The entire webinar is being recorded, and we'll get out that information as well to everyone. Also, when you log out tonight, just indicate if you'd like me to follow up with you to answer any additional questions that we don't get to tonight, you'd like Rohit to follow up with you, then go ahead and just let us know when you log out, and I'll make sure that someone from either one of our offices follows up with you over the next couple of days. So tonight's going to be a little bit different than what we've done in the past. Typically in the past, I'm the moderator and we have one guest speaker. Tonight we're actually going to have three of us on the call tonight. I'll introduce the other two gentlemen in just a minute or so. Also, any of you that have been on some of the previous webinars that I've done with Rohit know that this one's a little more unscripted than what we typically do. We use our slides to kind of guide things along for us. But this is going to be more conversational. We really want to make sure that people understand some of these concepts. We want to make sure that we get to the questions. But the goal here is to discuss some of the things that I think are of mutual interest to all of us. And that's what we do. Many of you know that I was a practicing periodontist for 10 years. What I do now is to work with offices all over North America who need help with their technology decisions. And obviously, some of the new HIPAA, and for our Canadian listeners, PIPEDA, those new regulations and HITECH Act, and the need for security and privacy is now more critical than it ever has been in the past. So a lot of our offices, we're working with them on that level, but we do a lot of other things as well. Now, to introduce my two guests tonight, Rohit is no stranger to any of you that have been on previous webinars in the past. He's held senior executive positions with life science and technology companies in North America. He's really focused, and really is what our focus tonight is on, using technology for effective communications. He's got a bachelor's degree in molecular biology, a master's degree in medical science, and he's a lawyer. He's probably the only person in dentistry I know who can sue himself. So we'll certainly get to him in a couple of minutes as well. We're talking about communication, and a lot of times when we've talked about the need for communication in dentistry, we've talked about the fact, we've talked a little bit about patient communications and working with our colleagues, but I think one area where it's absolutely critical that we have the utmost level of communication is dealing with our labs. And this is an often overlooked thing. We work with offices all the time that have just a huge amount of investment in technology, but they're still using paper forms to communicate with the labs. And as you all know, if you don't have good communication with your lab, the end result is not going to be all that great. So what I wanted to do tonight is also bring in someone who's got a lot of lab experience, and that's Ulf Broda. Ulf works for Orem Dental Lab, and I've done a lot of work with Orem over the years, lecturing for them. He's a dental technician with over 30 years experience. He's got a 4-year degree in dental technology, member of IACA and AACD. And you can see his qualifications there on the screen. So it's nice to have both of them here tonight because I think a lot of the topics that we're going to hit on are really going to be up their alley as well. So before I turn the screen over to Rohit, I just want to sort of give you a brief agenda. We're really talking about the 5 steps to improve your next dental restoration. Obviously, we're not necessarily talking about clinical restorations. That's a topic for another day. But we need to, I think, hit 5 specific areas. First off, when you're communicating with the lab, what do you send? What are the photo series that you really should be taking? And then next question would be, well, how do you send? Because the old standard, which is email, unfortunately, is no longer a very good option. It would not meet any of the HIPAA and PIPEDA regulations unless you're encrypting it, which we'll talk about, or maybe using a web portal, which we can talk about as well. The third thing, which I think is really starting to take off in dentistry, is collaboration. That we can actually share images and annotate those images so that we're all on the same page and we know exactly what's happening. The fourth one would be approval with 3D imaging. Is there a way that we can, because now so many of us are using iTeros and Xerox, and is there a way that maybe we can share that information with our colleagues with the lab? And then, of course, building the relationships. Most of us are in study clubs, and wouldn't it be great if we can use these types of systems to really improve the way that our study clubs can communicate with each other as well. So with that, as I said, it's going to be a little more conversational tonight, but I'm going to turn the screen over to Rohit. We've got both Rohit and Ulf live on the mics now, and Rohit, the screen is yours, and I'll be piping in quite a bit throughout the presentation.
That sounds great. Thanks very much, Dr. Lavine. Pleasure to be speaking to everyone tonight. You will see me go into my PowerPoint just now. And let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see it.
Okay, perfect. So there's a number of things that we're going to be talking about, and I think myself and Ulf will be going through, what we've tended to do is use the case study approach. I think it's very tangible and very practical. So we're going to show how Dr. Fauchard has met a fellow named Jerry Thompson. And Jerry is interested in having a whiter and brighter smile. I think in addition to showing how we might want to collaborate digitally with this, what's interesting is we're also going to be showcasing a few technologies, how to use image annotation in a product, and how do you share and discuss 3D imaging. So I'm quite excited about going through this case study with all of you and getting your feedback to see whether or not it's as realistic in your world as it is when Ulf and I use Secure Mail to do this type of collaboration. So let's start with the first slide, and I'm certainly no expert in taking the right photo, but it can be said that picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, maybe the right picture is. And I think what I'll do is I'll turn this over to Ulf Broda to talk in some detail about what to send the lab and how do you make your pictures worthwhile.
Okay, well, first of all, thanks Dr. Lavine and Rohit for inviting me onto this. This is quite fun. Yeah. Getting photos is always difficult to get from my clients, unless they know, unless they're into the cosmetic dentistry. They start sending me the occasional photos. Some are, the ones I need. Others aren't. But we got kind of a guideline here, AACD photo series. I think most dentists out there know what that series is. If not, then it is available through the AACD website. But it's just a matter of giving us some information that we can see, because models, when you have poured stone models, there's nothing there for us to really see other than the stone models, and we don't have the lips, we don't have the face, we can't see the muscles or anything that's going on. So this series of photos is, it's just a guideline here, but this really is helpful for us.
So, Ulf, I mean, you and I have talked quite a bit about photos and their value. I mean, this is nothing new in dentistry. You've been getting photos for years. I remember you telling me a story that you used to get full rolls of film and CDs and all sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, technology's really changed. So yeah, I mean, we were getting rolls, we get CDs, and sometimes we get a CD with the patient name on there and no photos on there, and somehow someone in the office whoever was in charge of it forgot to download the photos. So it's kind of funny, but you know, I know what happens. It's easy to make mistakes, but this way here, it's so easy to do with Bright Squid.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that we've talked about is the challenge in sending high resolution photos, because I know that in the case where we've spoken about, you either get, you know, one image per email or low-res images. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what you normally get.
Yeah, quite often, and it still happens today. I'll get one client sending 15 single photos, so 15 separate emails, and on top of that, all the images are really small. So if we try to expand them and make them bigger, the whole picture goes fuzzy. So it's not only is it an inconvenience to the person that's putting all this together in the office and emailing it to me, but it's an inconvenience for me to sit there and open 15 emails and try and download the photos and drag them into our lab track, you know. So
absolutely. Well, let's go on to the next sort of element then, and this is somewhere where it's about doctor-patient confidentiality, and there's a number of laws, as Dr. Lavine mentioned at the opening, in terms of how private or protected health information, how it's meant to be shared. And I think there's a growing awareness, I think, in what's happening with these regulations in North America and, in fact, around the world. And so when we look at, you know, the number of things that we have to concern ourselves with, you know, in our office we often call it, you know, an acronym soup. We've got HIPAA, we've got HITECH, we've got PIPEDA, we've got Omnibus, and all of these regulations are there in place to protect doctor-patient confidentiality. And the question we often get asked is what's included in protected health information? You know, how big is that? What's covered in that part of information? And in fact, there's so many details. Anything that has to do with someone's health, their condition, present or future, even payment as it relates to a certain condition. All of that's considered protected health information. So all of that is protected. And you know, I would say that I've been talking now about doctor-patient confidentiality and regulations for a number of years. The truth behind it is the regulations are really meant to ensure doctor-patient confidentiality. You know, it's something that I don't have to explain to anyone on the call, because everyone understands the value of keeping the patient's trust in that relationship. The challenge really that we're trying to address is, as we move to electronic medium, as we go to email and Dropbox and these sort of medium, the question comes is how secure is that data? And in fact, what we find is in the wrong format, in normal email or in Dropbox or in a number of other things we'll talk about in a little bit, sharing that information in those methods does breach doctor-patient confidentiality and therefore has been regulated. So just to give people a little bit of, you know, information about that, one of the things that we often come across is people wondering, why is email not compliant? And the fact is that even if your email or your system is secure, even if your information on your computer is secure, as soon as you send it to someone, that information now passes through a number of middleman servers, which are each of them not secure. And those actually make up the backbone of the Internet. So there's no avoidance of that in typical email systems. And at the bottom of the screen there, you see, you know, whether it's Gmail or Dropbox or Hotmail or Outlook, it's very, very difficult to make sure that this information stays secure.
Hey, Rohit, can I interrupt here for a second?
Absolutely, Dr. Lavine.
You had showed one thing on 2 slides ago, which I want to make sure that people, especially in the U.S., are aware of. I know with PIPEDA it might be a little bit different, but Rohit has showed a slide about the breach notification rule, and I'm sure many of you that are on the call tonight are familiar with the new omnibus rules. It's basically a finalization and strengthening of many of the HIPAA regulations that actually went into effect as of 2 days ago. As of Monday the 23rd, it's now finalized. So you have no excuse. In this country, if you become aware of a breach of patient data, and that breach can take a lot of different formats. It could be sending an unencrypted email that, or that you've got one on your laptop and the laptop gets stolen, or you have an external hard drive that you take home with you and you lose that, or there's a lot of ways that breaches can occur. But at least in this country, there's 3 things that you absolutely have to do. This is the law. Number one, which to me would be the most devastating, is that you have to actually send every patient of record a letter, not an email or a phone call, but an actual letter that states we've had a breach, here's what data may have been compromised, and usually it's social security numbers, credit cards, things like that. Secondarily is you have to have your practice listed on the Health and Human Services website, and finally you have to notify the local media that there was a breach as well. That's like the local newspaper or TV station. You're going to lose patients. The question isn't, am I going to lose some patients because of that? It's going to be how many you're going to lose and how devastating that would be to the practice. And we'll get into this in a little bit, but fortunately you do have one get-out-of-jail-free card, and that's encryption. If you're encrypting your emails, if you're using a web service like BrightSquid, if you are encrypting your backups, then you are exempt from that breach notification. And I think that's really critical for offices to be aware of.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that. I know that we've recently had someone join our service that actually was the victim of a hacking situation, and unfortunately he doesn't even know exactly what the person who hacked into his system was able to see, because it's difficult to find out. All he knows is that his system was hacked. Now the challenge with that is a breach. That begins the trigger for a breach notification. So he had to contact all 6,000 of his user or patients that were in his database and start through that process. And it was a very arduous thing that in fact will probably go on for years. And it's something, Dr. Lavine, that I think that might be a great case study to talk about sometime once he's over some of the shock that he's going through. To invite him to a webinar would be quite interesting.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be a great wake-up call for a lot of offices.
Yeah, and it's a sad story because it's he's still dealing with it, frankly. And just to point people to our website, we do have a number of quite a bit of information around the HIPAA regulations about breach notification, and even some recent lawsuits. And not that we want to promote lawsuits. It's only that people should, everyone here on the call and should know that these things are quite real, and that there's things that are happening every day, lawsuits that are happening every day, or the Department of Human Health Services will initiate some sort of a process to find out if there's been a breach, and it's I'll tell you, it's pretty illuminating. So not to dwell too much on the doom and gloom, I think there's, like as you've said, Dr. Lavine, there's something quite easy here that people can do around encryption. On that topic, we do have a lot of services that everyone uses right now, and those include Apple Mail, Gmail, Hotmail, Dropbox, SkyDrive. And there's a couple of things about those services. The first is compliance is usually very questionable. So by compliance we mean that it's not secure and it's not HIPAA compliant, and that's fairly typical. And I'll tell you, I can't count the number of offices that I go into that are not compliant with the HIPAA regulations or the PIPEDA regulations in Canada. There's a secondary element to all of this, which I think is pretty interesting as well. As Ulf mentioned, he's looking for high-resolution images, and typically, these are high-resolution images. Only one of which will fit in per email because of the restrictions on how large an email message can be. With the secure mail service, which is the BrightSquid service, we actually have up to 500 megabytes of information per message. So that's up to almost 50 times what most services allow. And so it provides not only some safety against the compliance issues, but it also provides a great benefit in that all your images, all your high resolution images, can be gathered in one email message and sent through secure mail. So I'm just going to show a very quick example of what a typical email might look like, and Ulf, I think someone has addressed this to you. Dr. Pierre Fauchard addressed this to you when he wanted to talk to you about Jerry Thompson's treatment, and he's included a number of images there, and there's a number of things here that are not HIPAA compliant. First of all, there's a number of images that have been included, and those constitute protected health information. Secondly, the person's name has been included, which also is the protected health. And then there's details around the actual treatment, which also is protected health information. So this is not in any way compliant. Ulf, I know that you often, as you've mentioned before, get a number of images per email, and I know they bounce off your system as well.
Yeah, they do, and it's because they're trying to send too many at one time, and I'll get a notice saying that someone's trying to send it to me. I don't know who it is, but I just hope that they see the message that it came back and said undeliverable. Yeah,
because you never know who it doesn't actually get to you.
No, it doesn't come to me. So and I could be waiting. I could be out of town. I could be, where it comes through Bright Squid, I can forward it to my technicians when I'm out of town, or they see it as well. But yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's take the same message, and it's a little bit hard to read on the screen, but what we wanted to illustrate here is the same message can be sent through secure mail. The same person, it can be addressed to Ulf. The subject in this case can actually be the patient's name because it's all secure. All the connections are secure. All of that information is encrypted. We automatically back up the system. And in fact, one of the things that differentiates HIPAA compliant messaging versus non-HIPAA compliant messaging is that we keep track of everybody who has logged in and looked at those images. And because we have this auditable log of every interaction with this email, we can, if someone needs in the future, report back on who actually saw these images and when they saw them. And that's what puts us in the compliant category. So what happens when you do send a secure mail is people still get informed on the normal email. So you still get informed in Outlook, or you still get informed on your mobile device. In this case, I think we've got an Android. But what you can see on the screen here is there's some information that's provided, but then whoever is receiving the secure mail will click on this link, and all of that protected health information will come after they've clicked on that link, just so we can track exactly who's had access to that information. And so whether you receive it in Outlook, whether you receive it in mobile, you don't actually have to change your email address. I know that when we've done previous webinars, people have asked, do they have to get a new secure mail address or a secure email address? And in fact, you don't. It works directly with your current email, so you don't have to change anything that you're already doing. The next item that I wanted to talk a little bit about is around image annotation, and this is where it gets interesting around some of the techniques that we can use in the digital world in order to clarify the communication and ultimately improve the patient satisfaction. So if you look on your screen here, it's a screen grab of how our system will look, and I'll actually demonstrate some of this. But essentially, it's taken one of those images that was uploaded to Ulf, and the dentist, Dr. Pierre Fauchard, was able to draw a little annotation and point to a specific tooth and mention the issue that the patient had with that tooth. So what that does is it enables Ulf to see exactly what you were speaking about, and Ulf, when he receives the message, can also annotate that, draw an arrow to it, and further describe that communication. So it becomes a clarifying tool on email that we, on our secure mail, that we enable. Ulf, I know that you've used this in the past. Did you want to talk a little bit about how this has worked for you?
Really, yeah, it's working really well. Some of the things I like about it is all the photos that are sent to me in one shot, I can download those all. I can create a zip file, and I can look at every photo side by side, which with my regular email I wasn't able to do that. I can access this anywhere on any computer, any iPhone, or my cell phone. The beauty about this is that I can bring up one picture. I can see what the annotations are on there. If I want to ask the doctor some questions, I can do the same thing. But the way we use it currently right now is fantastic. The doctor sends us the preoperative photos of the preps, the dentin shades, clear matte shades for single anterior teeth to get a good color match. And then we on the other side, at the other end, when we've got the case almost complete and it's in the BISPAIC form, so it's prior to glazing, we'll send the pictures off to the doctor and we'll give them all kinds of view as well so that they can look at it, and if there's something that they see that they would like to have tweaked, or some incisal edges changed, or whatever, we can communicate this back and forth without having to go on the phone, interrupting your time at the chair when you're busy with your clients, interrupting me, while you're waiting for me to get through another phone call, and we're able to communicate on the computer here without even talking, but we are communicating, which is part of the communication game. And so you get to see your case, and giving us an approval of it then gives us the go-ahead to get the case glazed and then send the case out. So I think this is working fantastic right now.
Excellent. Well, in fact, let's...
Rohit, we had a question actually just on that. Is it the annotation, can it work like a collaboration? In other words, can both people be logged in and work on the image at the same time, or is it typically one at a time?
It's typically one at a time. It's interesting, Dr. Lavine. We've been asked quite a bit about that type of a feature, and it's something that we're looking at our kind of collaboration roadmap. Right now, it's not at the same time, but it's instantaneous in the sense that as soon as I click on the annotation, and I'll do a quick demonstration of how it works, as soon as I click on the check mark, it then is immediately and instantaneously available to the other person. So although they can't actually see me draw the line, as soon as I click on the OK button, or the check mark in that case, it actually becomes immediately available for the other person. So I would say there's a tiny delay. It's not minutes or even seconds. It's instantaneous, but they can't sort of see me drawing the annotation.
Right. It's not a real time, but it's, like you said, within a second. As soon as you hit the check mark, at that point, that the person can see what you've done, and they can make their changes and edits.
Exactly.
And, so it's as close to real-time collaboration as we can get.
Yeah, and what we see is what we've seen is people will open up their secure mail. Both people will have it open at the same time, and they'll actually have a phone conversation about it. So sometimes when it is convenient, you can use the phone and secure mail to actually get the point across. One of the things that Ulf mentioned was just around approvals, and actually probably it's best if I show this rather than describe it. We've built in some 3D image technology so that we can start to view things really at the next level of interaction. So it's not just 2D sort of images that we're able to see. We're actually able to see 3D images. So I'm just going to pause my screen here while I open up the secure mail demo. Okay, now let me see if Dr. Lavine, can you see my screen now?
Not yet. You're actually, it went blank. Do you want me to make sure that you're the presenter again?
Yeah. I'm not sure
I'm actually
why
not
that.
seeing you at all here anymore.
Oops, there we go. You should see it now. I
There
must
you
have
go.
pressed.
Yep, we can see it now.
Sorry,
There we
I
go.
must have pressed the wrong button here.
Okay.
In any case, so what BrightSquid is, and what BrightSquid Secure Mail is a system that's fully web-based. So there's no download, and it will work on a tablet, it'll work on a Mac, it'll work on a PC, it'll work from your home or your office. And in this case, I'm logging in as Dr. Pierre Fauchard. He's the initial person who we started this case study with, who's the doctor on this particular case. And what he sees here is, like you would expect in a typical email system, there's emails from various individuals, and I'm just going to show how quickly one can be composed to, well, in this case, let's choose Ulf. So after writing a few letters, I can immediately click on Ulf. It searches our database. And what I might just do is increase the size of that so it's a little easier to see.
Can I just jump in here for a sec, Rohit?
Of course, yeah.
I get a lot of people asking, how do I find that person, or is that person online, or whatever? How do I find people on here? And I say, just type in, if you know the person's first name, just type in the first 3 or 4 letters, and their little box or whatever you call it will appear. So
exactly.
That's a question that I get asked quite a bit.
Sure. Well, one of the interesting things about the way we design the interface is that we actually, it's one of those regulation things, and we wanted to give people a secondary confirmation of the individual, and so now Ulf is a relatively unique name, as is Rohit, so I'm not sure there's so many on our system, but if I typed in the name Mark, for example, I would come up with a number of Marks. I know that everybody on the phone has probably done this where you've clicked on the wrong Mark and unfortunately send them an email. What we've done with our system is we've tried to make that a little harder to do by including the image of that person. So you can see Ulf's picture here and also the organization, just to make sure there's a secondary confirmation that that is actually who you want to send that information to. I can add a quick subject, and so I think his name was Jerry Thompson, right. And what we've got here in the top part of the email is this is the actual email that will go to their normal email address. So in this case, we want to make it clear that this is not the thing that's going to be private, but instead this is going to be the thing that goes to their email so they understand the context of the email. So I might say in this case, I might say to Ulf, here are those images that we spoke about. And now down here, I can include all sorts of details about the patient care. So I can type in some treatment. I can upload some images, and I'm just going to minimize this so I can show how easy it is to actually upload images to this as well. And it's a simple drag and drop process. And so I'll take this one image here and just drag it to that area. And you can see as as I barely finished my sentence, it's already been uploaded and available then for Ulf. So in this case, I'm going to say treatment details. And I'll send it to Ulf. Now as soon as I send it to Ulf, Ulf will be notified in his normal email that there's in fact a message waiting for him. And I can log in as Ulf and show you that. But in fact, we sort of, in the interest of time, what we've done is we've actually created a message back about Jerry Thompson. And you can see here how we've seen the top part of the email as well as the secure mail element. And I'll be able to actually show the 3D file that Ulf sent me for discussion purposes. Now, some of you will know 3Shape and how 3Shape has a number of scanners that are out there. Well, we share their technology in showing 3D imaging. And so what you can see from this is you can zoom it, you can rotate it, you can even show sort of the upper and the lower arches separately. And Ulf, do you want to talk a little bit about this? I know this has been an interesting tool for you.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, you know, as technology changes and everybody's aware of that, we do a lot of scanning and designing of cases with 3Shape, and we're able to, I just asked the question one day if they were able to scan a case that was finished prior to glazing, and if I could put it on through Bright Squid and show it as a 3D model where a doctor, if he wanted to, he could rotate the whole thing around just as like Rohit's doing here right now, and they said, yeah, they could do this. So this is something that it's going to be a little time consuming because obviously it will take a little bit of time to scan the model. I think a scan die takes just seconds, but a completed model with the restorations on there will take a little bit longer, but you know, I think it's kind of cool, and if there's a demand for it out there, we'll certainly start doing it. I haven't really had the opportunity to test it because it's brand new for us with Bright Squid here, so
Exactly.
we'll be testing it along here shortly.
And it's one of those new technologies again that you know, we're continuing to adopt in the platform. So in this case, it would be very simple for me as Dr. Pierre Fauchard to simply say approved and send that back to you, Ulf, so you would have that information back. And so that's sort of the very quick demonstration really of secure mail and how it can work. Now, one of the things that I'm just going to click back now into our PowerPoint.
So, Rohit, we do have a few questions if we can.
Absolutely, yeah.
For a minute or two.
Please, sure,
so,
yeah.
One question about does Ulf work? It's actually more for Ulf. Ulf, do you work with any dentists in California?
Yeah, I work with clients all over North America. We're an international laboratory.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter. And with secure mail, it's just like iTero. You know, this can be sent from anywhere in the world. So.
Yeah, in fact, I know that one of the largest customers we have is not even in North America.
No, they're in Russia. I'm slowly learning Russian. It's the vodka I like.
So California seems pretty close when you think of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So the next question is, when you were showing the 3D modeling, someone had mentioned that it's you know, very similar to an Invisalign type of program. Can the dentist access that program, or is it only for the lab right now?
No, that's meant for dentist-lab collaboration. So in fact, whether it's the dentist that wants to upload those images or the lab that wants to upload those and share those, it works equally well. In fact, and I'm just about to talk about it, in some of the study clubs we see on our system, dentists will upload an STL file and be able to share that with his entire study club so that everybody on the system can get a sense of not only the 2D images but also the 3D images that are a part of that case.
Okay. Now, I'm sure you'll probably get into this when you talk about the study club and the system, but if someone wants to send a case to Ulf now, how do they go about getting an account? So you'll probably cover that in the next few slides.
Yeah, in fact, it's a very simple process, but I do cover it a little bit later, so we'll go over it in some detail.
Sounds good.
Great. So you know what I'll do is I'll just continue to talk a little bit about the Bright Squid Study Club, and this is something that Ulf and I have talked quite a bit about over the past couple of years, and to be honest, with a number of other labs. I think there's a great opportunity here where many of the dentists who are on the call right now, wherever you live, probably belong to a study club or another, one study club or another. One of the things that we've found works very, very well in that collaboration is inviting the lab to the study club once in a while to discuss the complex case and really become a partner in that collaboration. What's interesting about what's happening on our platform right now is that the lab doesn't have to be local. In fact, there's all of the information can be uploaded and shared on the system without having to actually meet in person. And it tends to extend the digital reach of everybody that's on the system. When you do get together with your individuals, though, one of the really interesting things about our system, the BrightSquid system, is that if you've uploaded all of your images to BrightSquid, we actually have a instant PowerPoint creator. And this is something that, you know, when we were very early in our time on the market, I used to go to a number of study clubs, and there's a lot of people that had the USB sticks that would have their information on that USB stick, their study club slides. What we did was we recognized that we could do a pretty easy manipulation. We could reduce the size of those images and actually automate the production of that whole PowerPoint slide deck with a single click. And I'm not going to demonstrate it today because it's going to take us a little bit off track. But if you are interested, we've got a tutorial that we can make on it, or you can contact us and we'll give you a quick demo. But it essentially enables for all of those images, you click on a button, it puts it into a PowerPoint, and then you can edit them, you can add your own information onto that. So let's talk about some of the basics. Getting started on secure mail. The first thing that we can do, well, before I do that, I forgot that I want to tell you a little bit about our company. We launched about 18 months ago, and we're now in 10 countries, over 1,800 users. We've got over 50,000 patients in our system, and I see here that it's 800 files per week, but actually last week it was over 1,400. So things are getting very busy for us. We added about 200 new users, or sorry, 100 new users in the past 2 weeks. So it's getting very exciting. We've got a number of customer stories that if you go to www.brightsquid.com, you'll be able to hear about our software in their words, why they think it's valuable, and find out a little bit more about us there. You can also find us in the media. I think we've had such an interesting approach to software and HIPAA compliance that we're tending to get quite a bit of airplay. I think you know, one of the ways we describe our innovation here is the practice management systems have done a great job in managing your practice, and the lab management systems did a great job in managing the four walls of the lab. But when you want to communicate between those two, well, that's a little bit harder, and that's where we fit in. And so we've had quite a bit of interest in who we are, and we'd welcome you can go to our site and click on some of these links and find out more about us. Now, about secure mail, typically it is $39.99 a month, and that's for your practice, one dentist, and 4 assistants that can help that dentist. But because you've attended the webinar, we are actually offering for $29.99 a month until October 15th. And I think there's actually, that should be restoration. And so just enter the code restoration, and we'll fix that just to make sure that everyone hears that correctly, or everyone is able to see that correctly. So just enter in the restoration, and you will get that $29.99 per month deal. That's $10 off a month, or $120 off a year. Now, about Orem. Orem has sponsored a number of accounts on our system. And what we mean by that is, if you are an Orem customer or would like to be an Orem customer, you can get your account to communicate with Orem for free. Now, it's very easy to do that, and I think the best way to do that would be to get in contact. If you're not already an Orem customer, get in contact with us at BrightSquid. contact@brightsquid.com, and you'll see our email come up a little bit later, and we will send you out an invitation on Ulf's behalf, so we can get you signed up into the system for free. On the other hand, now what Orem does is it, of course, backs up and makes secure all of the communications that you might have with Orem. If, in fact, you want to communicate with other labs or with other colleagues, you will still end up buying a subscription because we want to be able to back up and ensure HIPAA compliance with all of your specialists, your other study clubs, colleagues, and potentially other labs if you do use them. So if you are an Orem customer or you'd like to be, contact@brightsquid.com. We'll set you up with a free account. But if you'd like to communicate with more than just Orem, we'd recommend the setting up of your own account for $29.99 a month.
Rohit,
yes. Yeah, yes.
They can also, if they want a phone number, 800-661-1169, and ask for customer service or ask for myself.
Excellent, and Ulf will be able to get you out an invitation directly from the secure mail service, and you can see the code there. If you do decide to purchase, is restoration, and we've got the spelling corrected on that. Now, I think just one last thing: when you do get your invitation, your email invitation, what you want to do from Ulf, then it will guide you through a couple of steps just to identify your name and your practice, and you can get signed up. If in fact you go to our website and want to sign up, you can go to secure-mail.com and then select your subscription, which you would pick on the monthly subscription there, and then click on restoration and the coupon code, and that will that'll validate your subscription, and you'll be all signed up. I think at this point, Dr. Lavine, we're really at the close of the webinar in terms of the information we wanted to deliver, but certainly open for questions and anything else that you might want to add, and Ulf, any other things that you may want to add.
Yeah, we don't have a ton of questions yet, so I would certainly encourage people to ask questions now. It would be a great time, whether it's on secure messaging, on BrightSquid, or just anything about HIPAA and HITECH, or security, privacy, anything like that. One question I see right here, Rohit, is that with some of the systems in the past, if someone signs up and they're spending the $30 a month, for every colleague that they wanted to get, that person had to spend $30 a month as well, and there was a lot of resistance. Is your system set up the same way?
No, not at all, and I am glad you raised that. What we've kind of got is a My25 type system. You can communicate with unlimited users. You can communicate with unlimited emails, messages per user. You can actually have unlimited uploads as well. So all of that happens. But what we've done is we've kind of got a My Favorite 25. And what we do with the My 25 is for 25 people that the person who subscribes for $30 or $29.99 a month, the person that subscribes can give away accounts to 25 people. And so those 25 people can communicate with you as much as they want. We'll back up all of that data and as many messages as they want as well. So that's the way we've looked at it. I think we have found, as I said before, a very positive acceptance in the marketplace with that model. I think people understand it and they like it. We certainly aren't I know that there's other systems that restrict how much data you can upload or how many messages you can send, and we didn't take that approach.
I think it was a wise choice. That's where we saw some of the resistance, is that people just did not feel like they should have to pay in order to be able to communicate with their referring offices. And I think 25 is very fair. I mean, as a former practicing periodontist, if I had 25 people I could refer to, that certainly was plenty.
Yeah, and if people need more, we can certainly work on that as well.
Right. Here we have a question, which I'm not sure if this is a valid question, but with that monthly fee, does that include Ulf coming out to visit their study club?
Yeah, I'll visit any study club. I enjoy traveling. I also fly business class, so No worries. No, I mean, I travel around a lot, and I'd be more than willing to go to a study club to do some kind of a presentation or something, but you know, it's got to be worth my while. Let's put it that way. I mean,
oh yeah, no, we're all yeah. I assume that the person asking it was, you know, we knew that it is not free, but
yeah, no, it wouldn't be free.
Well, we're not seeing a lot of other questions coming in. I don't know if Rohit or Ulf, if you have any closing comments here.
Well, I think, you know, I think there's probably a subject of a couple of future webinars that I'm thinking through here, Dr. Lavine, and one of them I think would be very interesting to talk through some of the real-life cases of dental offices that have come to our site where they have to have gone through the process of the breach notification. And the other one is just, you know, I think one of the more interesting cases that we've seen come up in a major HIPAA fine in the past couple of months was a situation where there was actually a photocopier in someone's office. I'm not sure if you saw that, Dr. Lavine, but there was a case where a photocopier was being used to copy a number of patient files, and in fact that photocopier was one of the advanced ones that kept a digital copy of all copies inside a hard drive that was sitting on that photocopier. In fact, it led, and then when that photocopier was returned, it became the subject of investigation and ultimately a significant fine back to the owner of that photocopier, and or back to the user of that photocopier. And I only raise that because I think, you know, the level of awareness has to increase about digital technologies, and even if people feel like their fax and their photocopier aren't digital technologies, you have to think again, and the stuff's getting a little bit serious now.
Yeah, no, I agree. A question here about, you know, what people can do to get HIPAA compliant, what they should look for in software, and certainly, you know, we do some of these types of services for our clients. Rohit had mentioned and I had talked about how critical it is to have encryption. The good news is that anything like Server 2008, for example, Windows 8, they already have encryption built into the operating system. It's more of a time-consuming thing, but we're certainly happy to do that. One of the other things that HIPAA says is that you should do what's called a risk analysis, that you actually know where you're meeting HIPAA requirements, where you're not, as well as having all of the policies and procedures in place. And certainly we have services that we could offer for something like that. But what about, do you have any resources for people, Rohit, that want to know more about HIPAA and the regulations? Do you have anything on your website? Or
yeah, we do.
Send them?
Absolutely. And so, you know, what I can offer anyone who's listening is, if you just put in the comment box, put in something like webinar, or either webinar or checklist. I'll tell you what we've done. You know, Dr. Lavine, I think this is you know, part of a series of webinars that we've given that have to do with HIPAA compliance. We have previous webinars that you may actually be interested in reviewing. Very similar format, but we tend to focus very specifically on HIPAA and how and what you can do to get started to become HIPAA compliant. The other thing that we do offer on our website is these checklists, and so if you write in checklist into your box, we'll make sure that you get a copy of it. And it really is a step-by-step thing that we think everyone should take back and begin the process of HIPAA compliance, or in Canada, PIPEDA compliance. And so that's all available on our website, or if you just, as I said, write into the box there, the question box, just write the word checklist or webinar, and we'll make sure you get a copy of that.
We should probably just send it to everyone, but
yeah, actually,
I'd like to
happy
know
to
if they
do
want it, but yeah, it's not that hard to do that.
Not
what
at all.
about with the secure mail system? Is there a limit on the number of emails that you can send?
No, and that's, again, you know, it's philosophically something that when we moved into dental and we started to create this product, we really wanted to proliferate. We wanted people to use this reliably and not have to count how many emails they'd sent. You know, and so we took the approach that we're going to provide a in our view, a very reasonable monthly fee, and in fact that they should be able to store as much as they want, send as much as an individual would want, and be able to communicate as freely as they would want. The more people use it, I think what we find on our site is the more people use it, the more they like it, because it gets through a lot of the hurdles of normal email, as well as keeping people compliant. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ulf, anything that you want to add before we wrap things up? Things that you would, certainly any tips or things that you find really difficult to deal with when you're working with your dental colleagues here? Yeah.
I think it's such a simple system to use for communicating with the laboratory, and it's all about the patient, and they're the ones that we, you and I need to please, and without a communication tool like this, it's almost impossible. And for this reason, being simple to use and being able to communicate and do annotations and so on, and not have to make phone calls and, oh, he's out for lunch or he's busy right now or whatever. That's such a time consumer on the case. In the laboratory, it's cases. If I have to call a doctor on a case, the case has to be put on hold for however long till the client calls back to me, and that can be a real drag when the patient's booked tomorrow and we've still got the case here in the laboratory and it's not going to be there. So, and that's an inconvenience to the patient, and obviously, like I said, it's all about the patient, so the client and myself working together to make sure the patient gets what they want. So I've never seen a system that's as simple to use as this here. And on top of it being HIPAA compliant, I mean, Rohit's talking about doctors that are getting into trouble because of not compliancy, but I've had emails sent to me by accident from doctors, and I'll go, and I'll briefly look at it and I go, oh, this is not supposed to be coming to me. I'll delete it and I'll email them back or call and say, hey, you just sent something that was not designed to come to me or for my information. Just letting you know. And they're quite apologetic and actually appreciative that I called them, because either they didn't realize, or whoever was doing it didn't realize, and this kind of stuff gets out of hand very quickly. I mean, look what Twitter does and all these other things. I mean, I'm scared to go on those things because there's so much stuff said on there, so who knows what's going on. But yeah, I think I think every dental practice should be using Bright Squid and Orem ceramic. Just a little plug there.
Yeah. Ulf, one of your clients, Ivan, had mentioned that he'd like you to call him when you get a chance to talk a little more about the system. So
I will
Rohit,
do.
Okay, Rohit, the annotations that are on those images, are those saved for future reference?
They are. They're saved for future reference, but you can also toggle them on and off. In some of the images, there ends up being so many of the arrows that you can't see the image anymore. So you can toggle them on and off. But we save those for all the future record.
Great. Okay. Anything else you want to add before we call it a night?
No, I appreciate everyone coming, and thanks for your interest. Thank you, Dr. Lavine.
And thank you. I want to thank both of you, both Rohit and Ulf, for being on the call tonight. It's always a pleasure to have two industry experts to help us out. So thanks again to both of you.
Excellent.
Thanks very much.
Again.
Obviously, I want to thank Rohit and Ulf again. Certainly, if you're thinking about starting to use systems like this, and as we talked about with the new omnibus rules, and if that's a foreign concept to you, I would highly recommend that you go on to Google and look up the word omnibus and HIPAA and put them together, and you'll see that this was passed March 23rd, and they gave people 6 months to implement it, and that was 2 days ago. So you've got to get secure with your communications, and as Ulf had mentioned, this really makes the life of the lab technician significantly easier. So I would highly encourage you. You've got about 3 weeks to take advantage of the special pricing. We've got a number of our clients using Secure Mail, using Bright Squid, and they just rave about the system. Obviously, if you're in a study club, I think there's a lot of advantages as well. So, take advantage of the special and get familiarity with the system. I obviously want to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules to join us this evening. Most of you know that I do these webinars on a regular basis. Next week I am off. I am lecturing at the AAP meeting in Philadelphia, so I'll be gone for a few days. The week after that, we actually have 3 webinars. On the 8th, we've got one for 6 Month Smiles. We've got Ian McNichol from Wheel Media on the 9th talking about using videos to market your practice, which I think will be a great webinar. And then we'll be talking about OsteoReady system, the 1-stage and 0-stage implant systems. That'll be on the 10th, and we look forward to seeing you on those future webinars. You'll all be on the list of invitations that go out over the next few days. So thank you, everyone, for joining us again. It was a pleasure to have our speakers on tonight, and we look forward to seeing you on future webinars. Good night, everyone.